Hi guys. Uh, okay. Arvind, I think today I'm not available. We can probably do it tomorrow. Today I'll not be. That's the reason why you don't see Monday slots. Okay. Right. Good. So I think in the last class I would have asked you to create a VM image. Is that right? Yeah. So do you have VM image with you? Yes. Yes. Okay. So let us get started from there. So I'll show you in any way how to create a VM image, but I wanted people to try at least. Right. Okay. So the topic which I'm going to speak uh, for today and mostly tomorrow is let me first close all of this views. Virtual machine scale sets. This is going to be our topic for the today and okay, you weren't able to create a VM from Mac. Oh, you could have tried from Cloud Shell, Abhi. Why are you worrying about Mac? Right? It is all browser based, right? Yeah. You cannot connect to a VM. Oh, okay, okay. So we are unable to connect to a VM. Which VM? All right. So Abhi, I raise an issue in Azure issues. I don't want to be distracted. Okay. So I think you know the place. Did you raise an issue? Please do that. Please do that. If it is not resolved, I'll definitely try to address it in the next class. Right? Is that okay? Right. Okay, fine. So, the topic which you would try to work on is virtual machine scale sets. Okay. So, what is this whole concept of virtual machine scale set? How is it different? And what are the different things which we need to understand when we basically look into Azure virtual machine scale sets, right? So that's going to be a topic of discussion because it is very essential for all of us to understand what are these virtual machine scale sets, how do they differ from virtual machines, okay, right? So virtual machine scale sets. So generally you will be seeing me using Vmss a lot. Okay. So rather than typing the whole virtual machine scale sets, I might be using Vmss a lot. Okay. Right. So I think most of you might have attended Cloud Essential sessions, or at least you should have got the recordings of Cloud Essential sessions. Right. So and when we scale, or right, so generally whenever we are in need, our application is being used more than or our application is in crunch. Okay, there are two kinds of scalings which we can do. One is called as a vertical scaling. Okay, vertical scaling is increasing the size of machine. So right, so let us assume that. Okay, let me go around this. Yeah. Okay. So Azure machine icon. Okay. Right. So we have Azure virtual machine. Let me not use this image. I think this will suit me, right? So we have a Azure virtual machine. Okay. And let me remove this virtual machine. Okay. Fine. I'm basically creating a 3-tier architecture. Right. Okay. So consider this to be a web application. This is where your or let me put Apache logo. Okay, fine. So if you look at this further, understand that it is a web server or it is Apache server. Alright. So we have an Apache server running. Okay, and this consists of your web components. Okay, let me reduce the text to 16 and change the color to this. So this is your web server. Okay, so and in between web server, what you have is, let us assume that you have, let me use something different. So yeah, you have Apache, and on top of Apache, okay, so let me use this. Not sure how many of you know this, but this is very famous in Python world. Okay. Flask. Okay. So along with Apache, okay, or on top of Apache, your let me directly use only, yeah, this looks better. Okay. So I have a Flask over here also. Okay. Something. So I have web server. Okay. And in the middleware, let us assume that I am using some Node.js application or Python Django application, whatever it is. Okay. Right. Or let me put it in this way. In the middleware, let us assume that I have Flask. Okay. So this is my application layer. This is where all of my business logic is basically. Okay. And then we have a database. Okay. So, and let me try to use a database which is SQL. So, right. Okay. Right. So this is a database layer. Okay. Fine. Now, this is where your hypothetical application called as Qt is running. Okay. So, okay. Okay. Application in need of resources. Okay. Consider we have an hypothetical e-commerce application. Let me not use e-commerce, or ticketing application. Okay. Movie or entertainment application which is called as Qt booking or something like this. Okay. So this application, okay, has a web layer, or this application has Three-tier architecture. Now, due to some discounts or some holiday season, okay, the load on your application is increased. Okay, that is number of users have increased. Okay, so if number of users increase, basically what happens? Your one application or one server cannot solve the load. Okay, so to solve this, we would like to scale horizontally. I'm not going with vertical scaling at this moment. I don't want to increase the size of my VM. So what is my preferred approach? I have, okay, let me first draw these relations. So your web server will interact with app server, and app server might interact with a database server. Okay, and your customers, right? These are your customers, right? Right. And your customers access your application via a URL which is somewhere around over here. Right. Okay. So this is how your application looks like. Fine. So let me go to Azure. Right. Now what has happened is load has increased. This is what we are trying to tell, right? So review dot slash images slash az57, right, slash azvm 57 dot png. Okay. Now what has happened is to your application, number of users have increased. Okay. So if you see, the number of users have actually increased due to some reason, whatever the reason could be. So you have a lot of users now. Now your same server cannot solve the purpose. So for that, what you have decided is I would like to scale. I would like to scale. So I would want to do this. Okay. All right. Fine. Okay. Okay. So you wanted to scale. Okay. All right. All right. And the same thing you want to do for your app server if required. Okay. Right. Okay. Right. You want to scale now. Now, if I want to do this, okay, or probably even for my database server, I might want one more secondary DB, because as the load increases, I might want to even use database as a cluster or whatever it is, right? Fine, whatever it is, I want to do this. So this is my expected stuff. Now, okay, the whole question over here is how can I do this effectively? How can I do this effectively? Okay. All right. So let me save it as 58. Okay. Good. Right. how to do this. Okay. If the application is in Azure, the application is hosted in Azure in an effective way. Okay. So this is our challenge, and this is what you need to address for your customer. How can you do this effectively? Okay. Right. Yeah, everything will come in Avi. Okay. So am I clear on this? So the problem which you are trying to solve is this. Okay. So if your hypothetical ticketing application called as Qt Booking is hosted on Azure. Okay. So when it is hosted on Azure, how will it look like? Okay. It will have something like this. Okay. And okay. So start recognizing this icon. This icon is Microsoft Azure. Okay. So it is on Azure. Okay. So how can I basically or initially what I do is, let me not make it look fancy. Let me write it in a very till you get used to icons. Okay. So this is on Azure. And what is an effective way to solve this? That is the basic stuff. Okay. So now what is that we need to do? What is that we need to understand? Okay. So let's look at possibilities assuming the servers are virtual machines. Am I clear on this? So our assumption is these servers are virtual machines. I'm not worrying about database server, but I'm definitely worrying about web server and app server. Okay. So each of this is a VM. Okay. So how can I basically do with this? Right. So we have two possibilities. One is using virtual machines. This is something which we already know. And using one more thing which is called as virtual machine scale sets. Okay. So you can achieve this by using virtual machines and by using virtual machine scale sets. Okay. Two possibilities for computing loads, for managing computing load. Okay. Right. And to make the access to external world easier, we would use load balancer. Okay. And there are two possibilities. Okay. One is called as Azure load balancer. Okay. The other one is Azure application gateway. Okay. So Azure load balancer and Azure application gateway. Am I clear on this? So you have two things to understand now. Okay. Azure load balancer and Azure application gateway. When to use what? Okay. And Azure virtual machines and Azure virtual machine skill sets will come down in an order. If you understand these two things, then it is all set. You will be able to do virtual machine skill sets. This is the whole discussion. Okay. Right. So now scaling means through a VM image or without a VM image is your choice. Okay. So I have not discussed that yet. Okay. Right. So let me try to tell you how virtual machine basically, if it is a virtual machine, how do you do that? Okay. So This I'll not be writing in the notes, so please look into this very, very carefully, right? So, right? Okay, or I will not even write it. This is a nonsense approach. Okay, so if we decide to scale using virtual machines to add additional VMs, you need to manually add it. Okay, when to add it? When to add additional VM, or when to add additional Azure VM. Okay, so because no one in his right frame of mind will use the VM approach. That's the reason why I'm not showing it to you. Okay, right. So when to add additional VM? Okay, manually monitor it. Okay, so right, adding additional VMs to load balancer. Again, manual. Okay, right, fine. Okay, high availability. Okay, so for this, manually create, okay, availability set or choose availability zone options. Okay, right. So adding additional VMs, you can manually add it. Okay, here if you are really intelligent, you can use something, some scripting also. That I am not getting into that. Okay, so now this is the whole point. This is the whole point. So now, do you want to do this for the application that is running on production? Do you want to manually see, okay, my users have increased, my application CPU has increased. Okay, now let me go and manually basically increase the VMs. Then it will become, okay, 24/7 job. And no company wants this. And no company wants this. Okay, right? And right, let me try to tell you what will happen if we decide with virtual machine scale sets. Okay, right. High availability means what? Okay, high availability means capability of your application to run. Okay, to run even if something goes wrong. For example, one availability zone is down, one rack is failed. Dheeraj, please go through earlier classes, please. Right. We have discussed about this one before we started everything. It is not cluster. Necessarily, it is not cluster. Right. Every high availability is not a cluster. Right. Okay then. So now if I decide with virtual machine scale sets, what is that I can do? Okay. So alright. To add additional Azure VMs automatically by creating a configuration. Okay. So when to add Azure VM? Answer to that, again the same story. Automatically by creating a Azure configuration. Okay. Adding additional, when I say load balancer, even if it is to the application gateway, same story. Adding additional VMs to load balancer. Okay. Automatic. Okay. Integration with load balancer. Okay. Or application gateway can be done. Okay. Okay. Right. So high availability. When I say high availability, in availability sets and all of that stuff, do you need to manually do it? Right? Right. So this is also automatic distribution is enabled by configuration. Okay. Now you tell me what is that you would want to use. So do you want to use something which can automatically increase the VMs or decrease the VMs? Do you want to use an approach where you can automatically add the items to the load balancer without manually doing it? Okay, or do you want to manually add it? So this manually adding approach is something which we use in physical data centers with physical machines. Okay, so this option is definitely not the approach, and this is an option which we need to deal with. Okay, right. That is exactly what this whole discussion is all about. Now, virtual machine scale sets. Okay, what is required? Okay, uh, or let me put it in this way. Okay, what is required for virtual machine scale sets? First thing which is required is, okay, you need to run your application. Okay, so generally all the machines in virtual machine scale set. Okay, so here I might be having a virtual machine scale set for web server and virtual machine scale set for app server. All the machines in virtual machine scale set will have the same image and same VM size. Okay, so all the VMs in virtual machine scale set will be of having the same VM image and same VM scale set size. Okay, you cannot have two different VM images. For example, if you want Django Flask or web server, Flask is a different scale set and web server is a different scale set. Virtual machine scale set becomes the backend for load balancer or application gateway. So if you have, okay, Azure load balancer, I'm writing it as ALB or application gateway. Okay, ALB is application load balancer, Azure load balancer, okay, or AGWS application gateway. Okay, so for these things, basically what happens is, okay, your virtual machine or your virtual machine scale set. Okay, for me this is not virtual machine anymore. This is virtual machine scale set. Right. Web server virtual machine scale set. Okay. This becomes my users will make a request to the 1 minute. Let me erase all of this. My users will make a request to application load balancer, right? Or Azure load balancer or Azure gateway, and that will forward the request to one of the VMs in here. Okay. So I'll do one thing. For this, what I'll do is I'll use black lines and that to straight lines. So from here, my request can go to this, or right, or this, or this. Okay. Similarly, I can have a load balancer or over here also. That is your choice. That is how you want to expose your application. This is what we will try to achieve, and this is what our application would basically typically sound like. Okay. So for creating a VM scale set, okay, you need an image and you need a load balancer. Okay. So 58 and 59. Did I use 58? Yes. Okay. This is what you need, 59. Okay. So creating a Azure VM image quick start. Okay. So what are the steps now? Steps would be first create an VM image. The second step would be create a load balancer. The third step would be create a VM scale set. And in VM scale set, we still need to understand certain things which I have not written yet. Okay. So first, let us do couple of things. Right. First, let me create a VM scale set image, which you already have, and this I am doing for the people who are unable to do it. Okay. So I'll go to virtual machines. Okay. So so let me go ahead and add a virtual machine. Okay. So let me create a new group. Okay. Come on, man. Uh, why can't we use CLI instead of PowerShell? Is there any difference between them? No, there is no difference. What will you do if your team is full of Windows admins who are in Azure, who like PowerShell? That's the reason. Capability wise, no difference. But if your Azure team is full of Windows admins, right? They might prefer PowerShell over Bash scripting. That's the reason. Okay. Vmss Demo. Okay. So I'll restrict myself as usual to Central US, and I'll call it as QTVM for image. Okay. Yeah, I want Ubuntu server. Okay, I'll be selecting B1S. Okay, and then I'll give some username. Qt. Okay. Now here I'll try to tell that I need HTTP and SSH ports. Okay. So I'm not really worried about the other aspects of the machine yet. Okay. Right. So let me click on review and create. Let us wait for the virtual machine to be created, and then okay. Is there any difference between application gateway and the load balancer? Okay, so there is a difference. They are different in terms of layer 4 and layer 7 load balancing. Okay, Dheeraj, I am quite sure you have not gone through my essential classes of DevOps and cloud. Am I right? Is my assumption right? Please answer it. Please. Yes or no? Some classes you have gone through. Please go through them completely, because we have discussed about layer 4 load balancing and layer 7 load balancing. This should not sound like a surprise to you. Okay, please spend some time on that, because that is essential. Otherwise, I would not have asked. Right. Okay. So go to the resource, and after that, I think I've given you the commands also. Okay. This is my public IP address. Okay. I can open PowerShell or Git Bash, whatever that makes sense to you. Okay, I'm using Git Bash today because it sounds much like terminal to the people who are using Mac. Okay, right. So, right. Okay. So here I've asked you to execute sudo apt-get update. Right. Okay. And in this, I'm installing this sudo apt-get apt install stress tool. This stress tool is to simulate the artificial load. So actually, when we'll do scaling, when we have load on our system, right? So how do you simulate the load? Because we don't have any customers. I'm speaking about a hypothetical company, right? So for that, I'll be using a tool called as stress. And now, blindly execute these commands. All right. Serious. Stress is taking this much time, is it? Strange, because it is a very fast tool. No, it doesn't take this much time. Because today, at least, if we finish till this part, tomorrow we can get in deeper with virtual machine scale set. Okay, we can learn about the areas of virtual machine scale set which are basically coming in and all that stuff. Right. Come on. Yes, good. So Apache 2. Good. And then what is the next command? Systemctl. Okay. This will be done automatically, but if you are doing this on a Red Hat machine or the other stuff, don't forget to enable it. Okay, but over here we really don't require this. Okay, in Ubuntu it is automatically enabled. So restart, and then I need to create. Okay. Okay. So if you open this file, in this file, just copy this content info.php, whatever you are seeing over here. Okay. And after that, are using this up arrow and X, that is control and X to exit. Save this file. Okay. Now it is better that you restart Apache again. Now, whatever is your public IP address, what is the public IP address of my machine? This one. Copy that, and if you go into your URL and then type /info.php, then you should be seeing this page. The reason why I ask you to look at this page is this page, what is interesting for me is host. Okay. So are you seeing address? Okay. It gives me the server's name, the server's address. Okay. And it gives me the private IP address of in the case of the stuff. Right. Good. Now I have this stuff, and now I want to create an image with this. So which is very much simple. Go over here, click on capture. While I'm capturing the image, I'll try to tell that, okay, I want zone resiliency to be on. Zone resiliency means this VM image should be able to work with multiple zones and automatically delete this virtual machine after creating the image. What is the VM image? This is VM scale set image. Okay. So type the virtual machine's name. Okay. Qt VM for image. Okay. Right. And what is the name of your image? You can call it as VM scale set demo image. Okay. Now click on create. That's it. Now your virtual machine will be stopped, generalized, deallocated, and then you will get a virtual machine's image. Okay. So there is a process that happens over here where it takes time. Now let us get into our second part. Okay, which is creating a load balancer. Creating a VM image. Refer here. Okay. I think yeah, I can give you this. Okay. So there you see the CLI and PowerShell part, and I would recommend that if you want, you can create a Linux VM image. I don't want. Oh, sorry, man. Correct. I've given the wrong link. Okay. Right. So right now the second one is which we need to understand is load balancer. Okay. So what is that we need to know when we are creating a load balancer? That is our second aspect. Okay. While creating VM scale set requires outage, no sir. If it requires outage, then there is no point in doing all of that. Right. Yes, we will go through. Right. Okay. Right. So now, okay. So I can't wait till this whole stuff is done. So what I'll do is I'll try to go into Azure parallelly. Okay, and now I can go into all services and then search for something called as load balancer. Are you seeing load balancers? All right. So '60. Okay. So create a load balancer, and you can do this from UI also, from CLI also. I'll try to show you how to do that in the CLI at a later point of time. For now, let us basically do it from here. So load balancer. Okay. Then I want to create a load balancer. I want to add a load balancer. Then it will ask in which resource group do you want, any resource group which you want. But for this, I said that I'll be using VM Demo. So VM Demo, right? And now, what is the name of your load balancer? You can give any name. So let me give the name as our application is Qt Home, right? So Qt load balancer. Okay. So our location is Central US. Then it is asking, do you want your load balancer to be public or internal? Public load balancer means it is for your customers. Internal load balancer is that is between your web server and app server. If you want to put a load balancer, that is something that becomes internal. So right now we want a public load balancer. Then it is asking for SKU. Okay. So what is an SKU? SKU basically, if you are going with 1,000 instances or if you have very high availability of stuff, then you can basically go with standard load balancer, right? So let me select standard. Okay. But standard load balancer is basically secure. It will have all the different standards. Okay. You can go with standard when you are trying to connect in reality. Okay. But for this class, it's okay. We'll basically go with basic. Okay. Because you don't have really a wonderful image. Do you want to create a new public IP address for your load balancer? Yes, I want a new public IP address. What is that you would call it as? Qt load balancer IP address. Okay. Then it is asking, do you want your public IP address to be static or dynamic? I said that I want to basically go with static. Then it is asking, do you want IPv6 address? I would say that I don't want it at this moment. Then do you want to add any tags? Okay. I will try to tell tags. Okay. Just purpose VM skill set. Okay. Review and create. Let it validate. And create. Let us see what has happened over here. Yeah. I think our successfully deleted the virtual machine and successfully created the VM image. Good. Good. So if you see, I have a VM image now. Okay. Let me go to my resource group, which is VM skill set. Okay. And if I go to VM scale set, okay, scroll down. Okay, are you seeing I have a VM image? Yeah, that's it. This VM image is basically more than enough for me. right? Good. So I think our load balancer also should be created very soon. Yeah, our load balancer is also ready. Okay, so I'll stop it at that. And from here, let us try to basically continue in our next class. Okay. And here I want to speak about one thing. Okay. If you want to create a load balancer in CLI, you can absolutely do that. You can absolutely do that. Okay. So how do you do that? One thing is Azure CLI. Okay. Reference. And load balancer is something with respect to networking. Let us see. Are you seeing a load balancer over here? Okay. So whatever we have done over here can be created from a load balancer over here. So if you don't write like a network load balancer, then you can go with an application gateway. Okay. So right. So let me save this image. Okay. Create a load balancer. Okay. From portal. What is that you have selected? Okay. So let me basically write the basic information that is required. Okay. Select. You need to select a resource group. You need to give a name. You need to select a region and type. Okay. Type in our case, whatever is mandatory, I'm just trying to write that. Okay. And then SKU. SKU is a version. Okay. Or a different model in that. So I want it to be basic. Okay. And then public IP address. Okay. Create new with static. Create new with static. Okay. Clear on this? So this is something which I want you to create. Okay. For the CLI options, refer to create load balancer. Okay. And similarly, if you want PowerShell options, it is much simpler. Okay. So for PowerShell options, okay, what is that you need to do? We know that get command and all of that stuff, right? So get command *-az network load balancer. Let us see if we can find something. No. Okay. Sorry, thing. New AZ load balancer. All right. That's it. 62. It's not very difficult. Okay, you have to follow the same options over here. This is 61 and this is 62. Okay. So from load balancer we'll continue in our next class. Okay. Image number has to be updated to, yeah, thanks Arvind, I've done that. Okay. Start foundation classes from morning 7 to 8 or 8 to 9. Then what will I do? Sunday morning 7 to 8 or 8 to 9. We will definitely reschedule, Ganesh, because that is not the only thing that is happening. Okay. I think I can look into your suggestion. We'll definitely do something there. Yeah. Thanks for your suggestion. We'll definitely do something there. Right. While creating VM scale set, does it require outage? No. While creating VM scale set, actually you are creating VM scale set because before your application goes to production. So even if there is an outage, that doesn't impact because that is before your application goes for a deployment. Yeah. Right. So I would expect that you guys have done as whatever is mentioned over here. And one more thing is for the people for whom PowerShell is not working, CLI is not working, don't try to try to make it work only on your systems. There is a Cloud Shell. Okay, not installing on your system is the least priority. Why don't you use a Cloud Shell? Because Cloud Shell is free of cost and you can use a Cloud Shell. Why do you want everything to be running on your system? Okay. So if it is not working, let it be. Don't stop practice. That sounds to me like an excuse, right? So why don't you go over here, click on this button and try to use PowerShell or CLI from there. This is what I want everyone to be done. So you might get issues, fine, right? So for some of the people, when you create a free account, VM machines were not working out. So we found a workaround. We said that go and create a pay as you go account. Okay. So in the same way, when your PowerShell is not working on your machine due to various reasons, it could be Windows issue, it could be your .NET version is not compatible, whatever it is. So why do you want to fix it in your machine? Why don't you use a Cloud Shell? Okay, right. So I would want you guys to work on Azure, right? Let it be your system or let it be some other system. Okay. For the people who are working in your first month, and if you have $200 of your credit, I'm not sure how many of you know this, but virtual machine, I can go to virtual machine. Okay. Since there is $200 of credit, I can go ahead and create a virtual machine. Create a virtual machine. Okay. I'm not going to create it, but I'm just trying to show desktop. I'm just clicking on browse all public and private images. Come on, man. Okay. Let me try another route then. All services. Okay. There is something called as marketplace. If you get into this marketplace and if you type Windows 10, you can create a Microsoft Windows 10 desktop machine in your Azure account. Okay. So you can create a desktop machine also, but don't do this if your first month is done. Okay, that's the only thing which I'm trying to tell. Okay, so because this is not free machine, there will be charge around it. Okay, so if something is not happening in your Windows 10 machine, it doesn't matter. You can create one Windows 10 on the cloud also. Yeah, that's the whole point. Right, man, I'll stop it at over here because I think I have to start the DevOps class also after that. Right, we'll meet again tomorrow. Right? Okay. Yeah. And Ganesh, to answer your question from 7 to 8 or 8 to 9, the problem is we also have DevOps class on Sundays, right? Yeah, it you might like to want it, but the problem is I have my challenges with respect to time. Yeah. I have to take the DevOps class on Sunday, right? That's the only problem. Okay. Is that okay? It is absolutely okay. Nothing will happen. Okay. So we will not be using zone resiliency anyway. Okay, right. So it's okay, Seshu. Yeah. Thanks. Right, sir. Thanks.